Hello, welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Saturday, November 2nd. We are a day away from week 9 of the 2024 NFL season. It has already started Thursday night. The New York Jets kept their slim, but some hopes alive, their season alive here for another week with a big win over the Houston Texans. And tomorrow we've got another full slate of football on tap, and then things close out on Monday night with the Kansas City Chiefs facing up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Today is episode 36 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. Another busy week. DiMari, lots to discuss. How's it going, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing? I know this week
Yep.
you were talking about, possibly quitting, paper bagging, but
Yep.
Jets found a way to win. So I'm happy for you guys. But yeah, we got a big slate. And you were saying this last week when we opened up, around this time is when we get into some important games. It's when kind of the playoffs start to shape up a little bit. We see some teams that could make a run, some teams that might not make the playoffs that's in the playoff race right now. But starting with that, we need to start with probably the Houston Texans, who are currently looking like they will make a run, but with injuries, offensive line trouble, we don't know how far Houston would actually go, especially after they were exposed Thursday night.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get into a lot of stuff today on the pod, but we will start with the Thursday night game where the New York Jets came with the victory. This was really a game that was a tale of two halves, where the Jets go out and look lost in the first half. I mean, Rodgers looked terrible in the first half, was missing open throws. The early in the game, first drive of the game, he missed the throw down the sideline to Davante Adams, threw it out of bounds, wasn't even close. Then there was another drive. I think a little bit later on in the first half, he had like Davante would just stopped running his route, and Rodgers threw it like way behind him, and it just went out of bounds. Like he was trying to get it to him like in the flat, and there was just some miscommunication there. So terrible start for the Jets. You had the Malachi Corley dropping the ball before he crosses the plane, which was just, I mean, I still don't know why players do that. I will never understand why players do that, especially in Malachi Corley's case, because it was his first ever NFL touchdown. You're going to hang on to the ball anyway. Might as well keep it. Just run to the sideline with it. But either way, it is what it is. Jets found a way to win. Second half was very, very strong. And then for the Houston Texans, it really wasn't good at all the entire game. Even though they went into halftime with a 7-0 lead, I don't really think it was what the Houston Texans were doing. It was just Rodgers and the Jets looked so bad because defensively, the Jets were doing a lot of good things. It was the offense that couldn't produce. Second half, Rodgers started to show some ability. Garrett Wilson had 2 insane catches for touchdowns. Davante Adams got in on the scoring party late from Rodgers on kind of a vintage play between those two guys. But all night, the offensive line was a problem. So, yeah, I guess we can get the Texans stuff out of the way, and we can kind of get into what this means for the Jets. To me, this Texans game, to me, from a Texans perspective, and credit to the Jets defensive line, that was by far their most dominant performance of the season. Quinn Williams was getting home. Hassan Reddick uh, played very, very well. I'll give him credit. I'm still bitter over the fact that he's missed the first 7 weeks of the season, but it is what it is. He had a very good game. Will McDonald continues to get pressure. Even Michael Clemens, who, if it was up to many Jets fans, wouldn't even be on this roster right now. That's how poorly he's played. He had 2 sacks. So everybody was getting involved, 8 sacks. But we knew going into this game, the Texans, they have struggled with pass protection this season. But this game, I think, even more so exposed their flaws. And to me, this Texans game, this Texans team right now, I guess this isn't a terrible thing because they ended up going to the Super Bowl, but reminds you a little bit of the 2021 Bengals where Joe Burrow had no time in the pocket, had to run for his life most of the time, and had to kind of bail out the offensive line every single play. And that's just a recipe for disaster as this team moves forward here. So, how concerning should this be for the Houston Texans, where Stroud got sacked 8 times when 11 of 30? Was pressured 32 times and got hit 11 times. I mean, that is just brutal. So, like, what's next? Where does Houston go from here from a pass protection standpoint? And of course, without their top 2 receivers, Nico Collins and Diggs, done for the year. But I mean, it doesn't matter how you could have all the talent in the world. If you can't get them the football, it doesn't matter.
For Houston's sake, I mean, somehow, like you just said, somehow Burrow managed to do it in 21. They found a way to get to the Super Bowl, but it's very concerning, especially when you ask yourself like, how many hits can Stroud sit there and take? How often, is Stroud going to be willing to, take these hits and try to get out the pocket and make things happen before he starts to get a little frustrated? As a quarterback, you want to drop back, you want to go through your reads, you don't want to be running for your life. Every time you're throwing the ball, you don't want to be getting hit or have pressure in your face. So for Stroud's case, like, yeah, how much longer until we figure it out? But also, this hasn't, it, from my remembrance, like, I don't think it's been a problem for them all season. Like, they've looked pretty well when it comes to pass blocking. I honestly think this was more about how well the Jets pass rush can be. You get Hassan Reddick back, and that pass rush was not looking great without him there. So with him back, you kind of start to see like shades of that Jets defense from last year, where they were sticky in coverage and they can rush the passer. Run defense still look very, very questionable. But for Houston's sake, I mean, I don't think it's too much to worry about now. The receivers not playing are also is a big part of it, because you are, trying to run so many different plays with so many different guys, to the point where when you don't have your weapons out there, plays take a little longer to develop because you don't have the same talent on the field with Diggs and Collins obviously out with the hamstring. So for Houston, I wouldn't worry too yet. I mean, Stroud got out of there healthy, luckily, but I really think this was more about how good that Jets pass rush can be.
Yeah, and to your point with the Jets pass rush, Hassan Reddick is starting to look like things are just opening up because now teams have to pay so much significant more attention to him, as opposed to some of these other guys that we've had in there, like Tack McKinley, who has kind of played in his place, does not put any fear into a left tackle or right tackle on any NFL team. He really just shouldn't. And he's given no reason to strike any fear. He looked good during training camp, but it wasn't any really good when he got opportunities this year. I mean, even some of the UDFAs, whether it be Brady McGregor or any of those guys, none of them have really striked any fear with more playing time. But now with Reddick here, he strikes fear into opposing teams. And you've even seen Quinnen Williams now as well start to take off here for the New York Jets. Kind of a slow start to the season for him. The first 5 games of the year, he only had 1 sack, only had 1 tackle for loss, only had 5 quarterback hits. Now, 3 of the 5 came in that New England game. So remove that game, and he really only had 2 quarterback hits in the first 4 games, 4 to 5 games of the season. But you look at Quinnen recently, over the last 4 games, he's had 4 sacks, 21 pressures, and 3 tackles for loss. And on Thursday night, he had 8 pressures, 4 QB hits, and 1.5 sacks. He's got 13 quarterback hits on the season. So he's starting to really round into form. I think some of that has to do with Will McDonald's play on the edge, Reddick, less attention on Quinnen. He's able to now just dominate his one-on-one reps in the interior. I will say with Houston, currently right now, an 8 sacks certainly doesn't help. They now rank as the second. CJ Stroud now ranks, or the Texans rank second with the most sacks given up. 31 sacks they've given up this year. And a lot of that has to do, of course, with giving up 8 in one game does not help that number. It's going to skyrocket it, but not a good place to be if you're Houston. That number's got to drop. And you look at the teams that are in the top 5 of most sacks given up this season. Just look at all their records. Browns are number 1. Patriots are number 3. Giants are number 4. Raiders are number 5. That is not good company to be in if you are the Houston Texans. They're 6-3. They've been able to overcome it, and that should give you some hope if you're a Texans fan. Like, they've been able to overcome these offensive line issues, and you mentioned slower developing plays with these receivers out there that are not named Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs. Tanked out a very good game, but we'll see. I think I will say this: Stroud. The Jets have had Stroud's number. Last year they dominated them pretty well, and this year they've dominated him as well. So it feels like they just have his number. But I guess just, do you feel this lowers the ceiling at all for Houston from an offensive line issue, or you think get Nico back and they'll eventually figure things out and hope that they don't run into, the AFC's, whether maybe Baltimore or one of these other teams, but hope they don't run into a team in the playoffs. Please, the Jets make a run, whatever, that crushes them up front.
Well, I did not know that Houston were second in sacks given. I guess because they score so much, and like you said, that 16-3 record doesn't really show that. But there's no way to avoid it. I mean,
Yeah.
you play Houston, you play Pittsburgh, just teams you can run into. You can get Pittsburgh, you can get Baltimore, you can get Denver, you can get Kansas City, which is a very quiet, slept on team when it comes to pass rush. The Jets can sneak in there. Like there is no way to avoid it whatsoever. And I mean, even if you play teams that aren't the best when it comes to pass rushing, teams might start to blitz a little more because they know, well, their five doesn't hold up that great against our four. So let's bring an extra. Let's bring an extra two. Let's get some pressure any type of way we can. Let's create pressure. So they got to figure it out. And again, I think a lot of it does have to do with Nico. And when Nico comes back, I think we will see Stroud getting the ball out of his hands a lot more. But until then, I think they said Nico is expected to be back after week 10, if I'm correct, or he can play by week 10. So whether Nico's in the lineup or he's not, they have to figure it out. I mean, Stroud is the heart and soul of that offense. I know they got a bunch of playmakers around, but Stroud is the heart and soul. Without Stroud, I mean, this team is basically Davis Mills led Houston team again. And we seen what Houston looked like with Davis Mills. Like you don't want that. So they got to protect their guy. It's just that simple. And honestly, don't be surprised if maybe they make a move at the trade deadline for offensive lineman for some depth, or just the sake of let's bring somebody here to be the starter to protect our guy because they're going to need to make a run.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when you look at Houston this year, their point differential is only +1, so they haven't been as dominant as they were last year. They are finding ways to win, but there's definitely issues that have popped up and things that need to be fixed. And you make a good point about the deadline. Maybe they pick up a body there. You can never have too much offensive line depth. Get them in and see if you can kind of catch lightning in a bottle with somebody. Now, from a Jets perspective in this game, I've said the same thing. For me, it was nice to get a win on Thursday. It's nice to at least try and believe and kind of get it. Like that was to me like a delusion win, because now you can start to, for a week, we can talk about the different possibilities of winning out or whatever. No, oh, you got Arizona coming up. They're beatable, 10 days repair. Then you get the Colts and Joe Flacco. Hopefully he doesn't dominate us on primetime like he did last year with the Browns late in the season. So you could start to think like, okay, you get to 5-6 by the bye week. Then you come out of the bye week, you get Miami, you get Jacksonville, two teams, even with Tua. The Dolphins don't look great. Jacksonville, we know, is a mess. You say to yourself, all right, you can start to win games. The second half gives you hope that maybe Rodgers is getting closer to 100%. Maybe the connection with him and Devontae starting to heat up, whatever. I will still say that to me, I'm enjoying this win. It's nice to pick up a win. If this team was 2-7 right now, we'd be talking about Cam Ward and jersey swaps. We'd be getting that ready for everybody for the Jets jersey swaps. But to me, this team's still got to get back to 500 until I start to fully buy in, until we can talk. That's to me, like, get back to 500, then we could talk. Even if they get to 5-6 before the bye week, depending on how they look over the next two games, then we can maybe talk then. But I guess just from an outside perspective, do you feel this win sparks something for the Jets?
It has to. It absolutely
Yeah.
has to. And I mean, I know again, Houston had significant injuries on the offensive side, but when you beat a team that we are going to be talking about possibly playing in late January, that is a boost. When you see Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson hyping up the crowd after great catches, Adams and Rodgers connection, Brees having, another great game. Not even Brees like, I think 74 yards against that Houston defense is still pretty good. Like you see the team is happy. They're willing to play. And it looks like the offense is starting to, catch a little fire. The defense starting to catch a little fire. So I think this is a big boost, and you do have to take it 1 week at a time, because you said 10 days until Arizona. You can go out and look as great as they did on Thursday and come out and put a stinker up next week, because that 10 days can either help you or it can hurt you. But it's really just taking it one game at a time. But I think after this win, I mean, that should definitely be a confidence boost for this team moving forward, especially looking at the schedule coming up. There is a chance they are 5-6 going into, I think you said, the bye week. They can do it. It's not impossible. And if there's anyone in the league that I think could do it, it's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and hopefully, like I said, I don't know if I've actually mentioned this today, but I know you mentioned it. The defensive line looked like 2023. Watching that game, the first half reminded me like 2022, 2023. The defense was getting all over the quarterback, couldn't stop the run, but they've never been a very good run stopping team, even when the defense has been top 3 the last 2 seasons. For some reason, they just can't stop the run. But it reminded me of 2022, 2023. The defense line was getting home, pressure all over the place. Offense wasn't doing anything. So hopefully that 30 minutes of football from the offense can spark something, and you can get this defense playing better, and you can get the offense starting to find its rhythm. And if that happens, that's everything we expected and everything we wanted as Jets fans at the beginning of the season. And I will say this too. The Jets have had a lot. I mean, they've played 9 games, which is the same as many teams that have in their bye weeks. But they played a lot of short weeks, with the whole primetime schedule. They had the London game. Then they've had a couple short weeks with Monday games to Sundays. They've had 2 Thursday night games. Like, they've had a lot of weird game, like a lot of primetime games, a lot of short weeks, all that stuff. November, they only play 2 games in November. Arizona and then Indy and then a bye week. So hopefully there, like, some more rest. Rodgers gets healthier. I don't know if you've seen it's a huge story here in New York in the media here, but the cayenne pepper and water. I don't know if you've heard that. You've
Yeah,
heard
but
it.
I've heard about
Yep.
it.
Yeah, cayenne pepper and water. He drank it, and now he's 1-0 since. So the Garrett Wilson catch and cayenne pepper and water, maybe that sparks this team. Maybe that's what we needed. Woody Johnson tried everything. He's trying firing the coach. He tried trading for Devontae Adams. He brought Hassan Reddick back. He changed the offensive play caller. And little do we know, all we needed was a little cayenne pepper and a glass of water, and we're saved. So if the cayenne pepper and water formula continues to help and the Jets get more time off here, you're looking at hey, maybe they don't lose again this year. 11-6. You can't go 11-6 without losing 6 games.
All right, all right. Let's slow the roll there. Slow the roll there. Look, I mean, 9-8. I reasonably see.
Yeah.
9
No,
and 8.
realistically, probably 9-8. They'll lose to Buffalo on the road. They probably lose that game. And I don't know. I think the Rams are going to start to heat up. That Rams game looks a lot more difficult than it did even just a week ago. And I think everybody's saying that now with the Rams on their schedule, that a week ago you're hearing reports that they're going to trade Stafford or trade Cup. And it's like a week later, this team looks like they might actually win the NFC West because the NFC West is wide open right now. I mean, heck, the Cardinals, the season would end today. The Cardinals would be the 4th seed in the NFC, which is just wild. But here we are. So, again, get back to 500, and I'll really fully start to believe again. But it's a nice win. And you know what the Jets will do? And we'll move on after this. This is what the Jets will do. They will beat Arizona. They'll beat Indy. Then they'll beat Seattle. They'll get to 7-6, and then they'll lose to like Miami and Jacksonville. And that'll be it. Like, that is always what the Jets will do. They'll get us all back in 7-6. Here we go. They'll find a way to lose to a crappy Miami Dolphins team, and they'll find a way to lose to a terrible Jacksonville team that might have fired Doug Peterson at that point.
If
that would
the
happen,
Jets somehow,
I'm preparing for it.
If they somehow do lose to Miami and Jacksonville, or they split, yeah, you can get the Cam Ward jersey swaps ready. Cam Ward would probably look nice in that, Gotham black jersey that they wore the other night, because that's just unacceptable.
The jerseys were nice.
They were. I mean,
I like them. What were your thoughts on them?
I actually really like them.
Look good, play good, I guess, right?
And
although I thought they were wearing them for the funeral, but
I don't know. They're 1-0 in them, so you missed out on that part. Devontae Adams, cayenne pepper and water, black jerseys. I mean,
it's all right there.
Maybe they should just wear black.
They should just play. Yeah, wear black, and they should just play on Thursday night every week. They're 2-0 on Thursday night. Their 2 best games have come on Thursday night. They're 1-6 on every other day of the week, including practice days. They don't win those days. They don't do anything at practice. I would pay a lot of money to go watch the Jets practice. I would.
I don't think you should. I mean, actually, I think that would be I kind of somewhat wish the NFL would do an open practice a week
Yeah.
because I mean you seen it when you went to the training camps where it's like, okay, this team looks so great, and then you come out and you look just absolutely terrible, or you can
Yeah.
have a terrible week of practice and then just come out on Sunday and just look amazing. That actually would be quite interesting to see how teams
Yeah.
kind of just go from a practice mindset to a game mindset.
Yeah. Definitely. So I guess we can move on here because you know, don't want to get too far down a Jets rabbit hole here. But moving on here, AFC South. So we talked a little bit of Houston Texans, AFC South. We'll kind of stay in the division here, stay in the AFC East or AFC with the Indianapolis Colts, standing at 2-4 or 4-4. They have benched Anthony Richardson. So Richardson played the first 3 weeks, then Flacco came in. Injury, Richardson was hurt. Flacco comes in. Richardson then comes back. And now he's benched again. So it'll be up, or is benched now for real. It'll be up to Joe Flacco, prime Joe Flacco, honestly, what he looks like right now, to come in. We'll get to the Flacco stuff here in a second, but what was your reaction to the Anthony Richardson situation? Last week wasn't a very good week, taking himself out of the game because he was tired. That's not a very good look at all. Hasn't played very well. Just what are your thoughts on the whole Richardson situation and even just his future here in Indy? Because after what looked so promising last year, has kind of fizzled out early in the season.
Well, I was at work on Monday, talking to coworkers at work. We're all in the fantasy league, and they all asked, "Why didn't you start Josh Downs this week?" And I've just kept it as simple as it is. Like, hey, I can't trust Josh Downs with Anthony Richardson in. Give it until maybe the second quarter of Sunday's game coming up, and he's probably going to get benched. That is what I said on Monday. I get an alert maybe 2 hours later that Richardson has been benched for Joe Flacco. I'm not surprised. I mean, it's the same guy that we seen at Florida, where like the athletic ability, the escapability, you have the throws where it's like, oh my goodness, Anthony Richardson, 60 yards off your back leg, amazing. And then but you can't get the 3 yard out, Anthony Richardson, to be accurate. You can't get the good reads, good decision, Anthony Richardson, which wasn't him at Florida. And I watched a lot of Anthony Richardson. Unfortunately, there were some times where, yeah, like you look at him, Utah's game, for instance, the crazy 2-point conversion, you're like, okay, he's going to be good at the next level. Like that, those type of plays make you a difference maker. But then you see him, throw into double coverage and he can't throw the slant route. So it's not surprising. I mean, if they want the best bet to win, it's going to be Joe Flacco. And this is a team that has too much talent offensively. I know they are probably not on the same scale when it comes to talent with other teams, but you got Pittman, you got Josh Downs, who's very reliable and solid. Alec Pierce is your deep ball guy. You have Jonathan Taylor, great running back. A.E. Mitchell, who they haven't even used all year. Like, this is a team on paper that probably could say one of the best teams in the league, just strictly off the names on their roster. But Richardson in that lineup with that roster, like, they aren't going to do anything. That's why they went with Flacco. I mean, you want to win. You want to stay afloat in the division. AFC is wide open. You got to go Flacco with some experience. And just let Richardson sit behind him maybe a few weeks and then go back to Flacco. Although I know they say, hey, this is Flacco's team from here on out. But maybe Flacco goes in there, has a few stinkers, and it's like, okay, let's go back to Richardson. But if they want to win right now, stick with Flacco. That's your best bet.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I never liked Richardson a whole lot coming out of college. I said it multiple times. I was never a big fan of him. But I started to kind of buy into him after last season. I thought he showed you some good things. You mentioned the athletic ability, all that stuff's there. But the completion percentage, he's got a 44.4% completion percentage. And I don't want to like just like look at this from just a Jets angle, but from a Jets fan perspective, and I'm being serious when I say this, I'm not trying to just joke about Zach and stuff. The biggest knock with Zach Wilson was always he's got all the arm talent, he's got all the athletic ability in the world. He can't make the short, simple throws. You mentioned the slant, overthrowing guys like a flat, like a 5-yard mesh route, can't hit it, but he can do all these great things with his leg. legs. He can, bring some physicality. Last year, he probably should have protected himself a little bit more. Probably should have been maybe a little bit smarter, which caused some of the injuries. But like this year, it's same thing with that we talked about a lot with Zach, was just like all the athletic traits, can't make the simple throws. Richardson, some of these throws he makes, and then the whole, oh, he was tired and stuff. And that was just a terrible look in itself. Like, dude, you're an NFL quarterback. You owe it to your teammates to go out there and battle with them. Like, not even like, even if that's basically quitting on your team in a way. For a guy that's done absolutely nothing in the NFL to just like quit on your teammates because you were tired, like seriously. Colts fans are tired of him and his 31.3 completion percentage he had last week. So, and that's the difficult part too. And we've seen a lot of teams over the years to have to try and balance this, where you have a locker room that's ready to win. You have talent that's winning talent. You have talent that's really good, but then you're also trying to balance developing a rookie quarterback. And Shane Steichen, you have to walk a fine line of not hurting the young quarterback, but you also have to kind of cater to what the locker room wants. And you can lose as a head coach, you can easily lose the locker room if you continue to roll Richardson out there. As much as the front office and the coaching staff wants to develop Richardson and wants this first round pick, 4th overall, this top 5 pick that they invested into him to work out, you owe it to the locker room to put Flacco out there because he gives you the better chance to win. So I 100% understand the move, and I'm right there with you. I 100% agree with the move because the Colts are too talented, too good to have this season go to waste because Anthony Richardson is just out there every week, and the organization is trying to like prove that they're not making a mistake, trying to prove that they're right by just throwing him out there. So you have to go to Flacco. You've got all these pieces on this roster: Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, you mentioned Josh Downs. All of these guys, all of these pieces, all over the offense, plus the defense. You owe it to the locker room to throw a quarterback out there that gives you a good chance to win, gives you the better chance to win, and the better chance to win is Joe Flacco. And who knows? We just got done talking about the Houston Texans. I still think they're a team that can make a deep run. But if their offensive line continues to play like this, who knows? Maybe Flacco can elevate this team and you have a shot at the division when December comes around. Who knows? Maybe Houston, these wide receiver injuries, Diggs going down really does plague them, and the offensive line continues to be a major issue and they start to fall apart. Like, then that opens the door for Indy if Flacco continues to play like this. I can't believe we're sitting here talking about Joe Flacco elevating a team in 2024, but here we are. That's what makes the NFL so great. Talking about Flacco potentially making a run at a division here. But look at the games with the Colts and Flacco. The game, like the offense just runs so much more smoothly. He's got 7 touchdowns and a pick. Like his numbers are phenomenal in the 3 games that he's played this year, the 3 games that he's started. You look at Richardson, 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's terrible.
I'm not just saying this from a fantasy standpoint because I do have Josh Downs on fantasy, but it's just so obvious how the offense with Richardson is so one-dimensional, where it's like we're going to go Jonathan Taylor heavy, throwing some sprinkles of Richardson here just because he has that ability to use his legs, and they can't throw the ball. Last week, I'm sorry, I'm obviously not an NFL quarterback. I just don't think I myself or you yourself would be 2 for 15 in a game with 81 yards and halftime, where 69 of those yards came off of Josh Downs' bomb for a touchdown. That is literally inexcusable. And it goes back to just the simple, easy throws that has to be made. But you throw Flacco in there, teams have to respect the passing game more. Jonathan Taylor eats off of that. He has a better game. And you can just see it in the body language with the receivers, from Flacco to Richardson. With Richardson, they're out there, they're doing cardio. With Flacco, like they know they're going to get the targets. They're going to put points on the board. The offense is fun. So I think you made a great point where it's like, in this case, it's more about let's go out there and win and keep the guys in the locker room happy instead of hurting I don't want to say ego. Anthony Richards not like an ego type guy, but hurting the feelings of, the franchise quarterback. Hey, at the end of the day, it's like any other job. You come to work and you're not getting your job done. you got a bunch of different tasks you need to check mark at the end of your shift. If you're not doing that, you're just not going to be employed, or someone's going to give your job to someone else. Same thing with Anthony Richardson right now. Unless he figures it out, which looks like he wasn't going to. He's had, like you said, 44% completion percentage. You're not doing your task. You're not doing your job. We're going to bring somebody else in here to do it, and that's going to do it better than you. It's just that simple. But this isn't his career. Like, he can bounce back. But right now, I mean, Flacco's the answer.
Yeah. For a team that's got the talent to win, you have to move to Flacco. They made the right decision. I mean, even like you look at Pittman, I mean, he's got to be getting frustrated. I mean, he had one catch last week. Like he's got to be getting to the point where it's like, come on now. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm your number one wideout, and I'm barely getting the ball. Like, so he's, and both of his touchdowns scored this year came with Flacco. So that just shows you too. And he's had one 100-yard game this season. That came with Joe Flacco. So it's Pittman right there, significantly better. You talk about JT, good passing game, keeps the defense guessing, opens things up for Jonathan Taylor, because that's obviously huge in itself. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, he had a huge week last week. I think he went off for 100 yards last week, but still opens things up and more consistent from him. But yeah, I mean, Richardson, it's you hope that, he sits and learns from this. My biggest thing with Richardson is just like, is that just ultimately how can he? We've seen this now forever with him. He's not being able to complete these simple passes and not making these dumb decisions. Like, how? Like, is that going to ever change? It feels like it's just who he is, and you just have to hope that. I don't know how to word it, but I guess you have to hope that at some point I guess the good ends up just outweighing the bad. Right now, he's not good enough to overcome the bad. At some point, you hope that the things that he's good at, he can get really good at, so it overtakes the really bad stuff. But I don't know, man. I loved what I saw from Richardson last year. He surprised me because I never liked him coming out of Florida, but now he's kind of giving you back to that. Why I guess I really didn't like him in the first place, but and as a football player, obviously, not as a person. I'm just saying.
And year two as well. He didn't play. What was it? 12 games last year. I think he was out after the season in the injury last year. Was that after week 4? Like, I don't think he played that long. So, like, benefit of the doubt, it's like, okay, you don't have a lot of in-game experience, but you have your question is very valid, where you're kind of just like, as an NFL quarterback, let's say the decisions are tough, and that's going to be something you still have to adjust to, because the game is so much faster, so many different coverages, a lot of different pieces that goes into reading the defense. But you can't teach throwing a slant route. You can't teach throwing the flat route. Even with decisions, I know, again, like I just said, that's tough, but you can't teach, okay, well, I don't see nobody open. Let me take my check down. Like, those aren't really coachable things. That's just something on the player. But I mean, like I just said, they didn't completely give up on him. I think he's still the future. Like, he's still the franchise guy, but they're going to have to just work with him and hopefully hope he gels into what they want him to be. But as of now, I mean, if he doesn't tweak the little things, it's not going to matter.
Yeah. And you talk about learning how to, like, just complete I guess just stay in the pocket, step up, and completing passes. You got to watch Flacco, because this is not a guy that's going to exude much mobility. So if there is a guy for Richardson to watch on just, I mean, like, just throwing good passes and hitting receivers in stride and putting the balls in good spots, like, Flacco's the guy to watch, because he's not going to go out there and rush for 90 yards on the ground. If he did, I might stop watching football if he ever did that. So, but we'll see. I guess we can kind of transition now into another quarterback, another team. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think will transition us to in a good spot of kind of looking, like we mentioned, with it being November, halfway through the season. We've already hit week 9. So 8 weeks in, 9 to go, pretty much just about halfway here. Right at the halfway mark, really. Well, sort of. 17's, well, 18's odd. So, no, 18's even. So, yeah, we're right at the halfway mark. After this week, we'll be officially halfway through. 9 games, 9 weeks in, 9 more to go. The Pittsburgh Steelers, right? You start the season with Justin Fields. They win, they go 4-2. Fields wasn't doing a whole lot. They were finding ways to win. And in the Jets game, I mean, that was a disaster for the Jets, right? If you get the 2 picks from Rodgers, Russ early on didn't look good, but they found a way to win. Started to play really well. If we're being honest, Russ cooked. And then last week against the Giants, played pretty well, right? 278 yards, a touchdown, not too bad. I guess where do things you feel stand right now with the Steelers, Russ, and in a way the ceiling for this team?
When it's all said and done, Mike Tomlin needs a statue outside of that stadium. This is a team. Even last year when we were on here, we never believed in Pittsburgh last year. They found a way to make the playoffs. This year, we definitely thought they weren't making it. Whereas, maybe the defense will carry them and just Russ, Justin Fields, doesn't matter. Like, there's going to be no quarterback play good enough to get them there. And right now, they're sitting at second in the AFC, 6-2. And honestly, we could be talking about 7-1 if it wasn't just, a Dak Prescott legacy drive for them to drop to Dallas. I'm impressed. I am actually impressed. And Pittsburgh just looks so much different with Russ in there. And it's the playmakers with Russ being in there. And I'm saying that because Najee Harris, who's someone we also talked about, we were just like, we're not big on Najee Harris. Like, this guy he's not really that great of a back. He looks amazing. Since Russ has kind of stepped in, Najee Harris looks amazing. George Pickens looks amazing. The offense looks good. Like, I can't remember the last time a Pittsburgh offense does not bore me to sleep. Now I can actually watch Pittsburgh and go out there and play football. I'm surprised. I am honestly surprised. They keep playing how they're playing. I mean, 6-2 already. We got to say, what, 11-6 maybe? They're playing so good on both sides of the ball. I just don't see them completely falling off the map. 11-6 is reasonable.
Yeah, definitely. I will say this about the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. I say it every year. He continues to just impress you as a coach. Like, what he's been able to do is just wild. Every single season, midway through the year, making a quarterback change, and they just find ways to win every single year. And they'll make the playoffs. They should make the playoffs. I'd be surprised if they don't make the playoffs at this point. His defensive-minded coach, always are very good. And then the offense does enough. Now, I've said this about Mike Tomlin. I'm not very big on Bill Belichick post Brady. I've always said it. Like, I think personally, did I have this hot take already? I think I've given
that
Tomlin better than Belichick.
Is relevant. Yep, you said he's better.
I think he is.
It's not a bad take.
Like, Tomlin to me is, I think, very underrated. I don't think Tomlin gets enough attention. I think part of it's the rings aren't quite there. He hasn't won a ring in a while. I think that's part of it. And a lot of people too, I think, view the Steelers as a team that just gets in every year and just gets blown out in the wild card round. And people aren't going to give Tomlin a bunch of credit for that. Like, oh, we got smoked by Buffalo by like 2 scores last year. Not going to give the coach a ton of credit. But the things I would do to have Mike Tomlin I think most teams, I think even you as a Cowboys fan, I'm sure you take Tomlin right now. I think if you asked all 32 NFL fan bases, would you take Mike Tomlin right now? Probably 70, 80%. You could go through the list. There's a couple teams that probably wouldn't. I think the Chiefs are fine with Andy Reid. I'm sure Chargers fans right now are probably fine with Harbaugh. I would probably say for the most part, the Ravens fans are also fine with Harbaugh. Texans, Lions fans are content. Niners fans, probably content with Shanahan. Maybe not. Although how much Tomlin's playoff success recently, I guess you could. Either way, I'm not going to go down that. I'm sure that's a different conversation, different day, but they're finding ways. And these next couple weeks are going to be a very big test for them. 6-2 right now, atop the AFC North. They're on the bye week right now. I think their bye week comes at a great time because you come out of this bye week and your schedule is at the Commanders, home against the Ravens, then at the Browns, at the Bengals, home against the Browns, on the road in Philly, on the road in Baltimore, home against the Chiefs, home against the Bengals.
That
So,
has to be the toughest stretch of football.
100%.
It has to be.
The NFL schedule makers basically said, here's 8 games that you should win, and then we're just going to throw all 6 of your division games after your bye week. So enjoy the first 9 weeks of the season. Get your quarterback change in, figure that out. It's almost like the NFL schedule makers knew they would make a quarterback change. So there's like, all right, we're going to, this is what the script writers had. The Jets, they're not going to be playing well. So you're going to start Russ. He's going to play better than Rodgers. And we're going to give you the Giants because everybody knew at the beginning of the season, Giants weren't going to be any good. And the season ended the minute the Giants showed those disgusting Century Red uniforms and told Daniel Jones to stand for a photo in those things. That's the minute the Giants season ended. That's the minute Daniel Jones. Oh, how can you lack how do you lack like aura in a schedule release photo? It just doesn't happen. So the schedule makers were cooking here for the Steelers. My point is their schedule gets very, very difficult. Very difficult. I don't know how much to buy into the Browns. Like they're not going to make the playoffs, but how competitive are they going to be with Winston after beating the Ravens last week? You have to at least think that they're not going to be a team that's just going to get rolled over. They're not going to be a pushover. Like they're going to be a team that's going to play hard for Jameis. He's going to go out there. You can't spell wins. You can't spell Winston without wins. So they're going to rack up a couple W's.
Here we go for Jameis. I probably did it wrong, but you get the point.
Yeah. So their schedule's tough. I mean, you can make the case every team on their schedule from here on out could make the playoffs except the Browns. And I know the Bengals too, but the Bengals, to me, their defense stinks. That's a big issue. But if they can get the defense even somewhat figured out, they can go out a run. I don't think the Browns will go out a run. They're just 1-6. I just don't see it happening. But the Bengals offensively have the talent to actually go on a run and maybe mask over the problems with defense at some point. But it's tough. I think they'll make the playoffs, but I'll tell you what, man, if the Steelers come out of this 11-6, I mean, because you can run through the schedule. They'll probably, split against Baltimore? Best case scenario, you split against Baltimore, and you probably split against Cincy.
Yeah.
So that's 8-4. And then do you split against the Browns?
I think they sweep the Browns.
So then 10-4. Do you beat the Commanders? On the road.
Tough.
Interesting.
That's tough.
Coming out of a bye, possibly. I'll say this. I don't know. Those AFC North showdowns are always tough. They probably don't beat the Chiefs, right? Probably not. Chiefs will find a way.
I don't see them beating the Chiefs.
So that'd be 10-5. No, it's home. It's Christmas Day. Possibly. I don't know, man. The Chiefs are going to find a way. The Chiefs are going to win like 14 games this year. They're going to suck doing it. Mahomes is going to finish the season with like 20 interceptions, and they're going to go win the Super Bowl. If that happens, I don't.
The NFL is officially rigged if that happens.
Yeah. And then you've got the Eagles are beatable. That's on the road. So it's still there for the taking to get to 11-6, definitely. But this schedule's for sure tough. And look, I think you've got to be pretty fine with what you've seen out of Russ, right? I mean, he's looked good. He's done enough. I mean, he's looked better than Fields looked. He's got 3 touchdowns in 2 games. Fields had 5 in 6 games. So I think that tells you a lot right there.
I mean, it's the same thing I was kind of just saying about the coach. Like you are more balanced with Russ in there right now compared to Fields. So I know Tomlin made the little joke, like, I get compensated well for a reason when asked about why did they decide to go with Russ,
Yeah.
but it seems to be working out. He made a good decision. So yeah.
I will also say this: the Steelers' special teams is disgusting. They've got one of the best special teams unit in the NFL. I mean, they blocked like 4 or 5 kicks this year already. It's crazy. One of those came against the Jets, so they're definitely, that's another unit to keep an eye on. I will say this though, the when you look at TJ Watt, teams have been doubling him a little bit more. Last week, I mean, he had 2 sacks, the Giants, but prior to that, he went 2 weeks without a sack, which is like some crazy drought for TJ Watt. But last week he ended up getting home again. That's going to be interesting to see how much more we see of that, like double teaming him. Like it feels like this year more than ever, especially that Vegas game where teams just put so much more attention on him. And for 2 weeks, it kind of slowed him down slightly, even though he had 2 forced fumbles against the Raiders. But then last week, he just tore it up again. And the Giants left Jermaine Illuminor on an island by himself and blew the game for him. So, anyway, any closing thoughts on Pittsburgh?
I will never disrespect Mike Tomlin again. That's all I can say.
No. Have you disrespected him on the pod?
I haven't disrespected him. I'm saying it more like I would never count him out.
Yeah.
He's just
that's true. Because both of us, we've had our lack of belief.
He's just NBA comparison of a coach. He's like Eric Spoelstra. You get, no matter how bad that roster is, the lack of talent they have, like you can never count out Miami for some odd reason. That's Mike Tomlin. It just doesn't matter. He's going to find a way to win, find a way to elevate the team. So I will never doubt him ever again.
What about this? What about this pro comp? Jordy Fernandez. He's taking a Nets team that is tanking, and they've got him at 3-3. Jordy Fernandez, 10 years from now, will be the NBA version of. He will be Eric Spoelstra.
I mean, honestly, this Nets team has one of the worst rosters. Blame Cam Johnson, who's pulling up from Cam Thomas.
Cam Thomas,
who's pulling up from the logo, and just going out there scoring 30 every single game. Like, so we're trying to get Cooper Flag. We're gonna need you to stop. We're gonna need you to slow it down a little bit.
Logo threes.
I like Cam Thomas.
I mean, that is tanking. Just pull up from the logo, but they're going in.
They're going in. That's kind of the problem. And Dennis Schroeder is playing the best ball of his life. Like
Dennis Schroeder looks so good. Yeah.
Oh man.
Anyway, not to get too off topic. Let's take a look at the AFC and NFC playoff picture here. So as it stands right now, going into week 9, the AFC: Chiefs 1, Steelers 2, Bills 3, Texans 4. Those, of course, are your current division leaders. And then your wild cards 5, 6, and 7. Broncos, Ravens, Chargers. And your team's kind of just on the outside right now looking in. We'll go 8 through 10. Colts, Bengals, Jets, with the 2-win Dolphins still kind of slightly lurking, and then Browns, Jaguars, Raiders, all those teams there at the bottom. They're in the basement. You look at the NFC, top 4 teams: Lions, Commanders, Falcons, Cardinals are division leaders right now. And then your 5 through 7, Packers, Vikings, Eagles. And there's a lot of teams in the NFC right now that you could go as deep as 13 and say that a lot of these teams still have a chance. Bears 4-win team, Bucks 4-win team, Niners 4-win team, Seahawks 4-win team. And you've got 2 3-win teams, the Rams and the Cowboys. Now, I know you don't have much faith in the Cowboys, but the Rams are a team that I think, myself included, maybe has bought into them a little bit more after last week's performance and Puka Nacua and Kupp getting healthy. So we could see a lot of changes here in the NFC over the next 2 months. But I guess we'll start with the AFC. Where do you stand right now? AFC, do you see the teams in holding their spots? Any movement, teams on the outside, all that good stuff?
I think Pittsburgh and Baltimore are probably going to swap. Baltimore's going to win
Yeah.
that division. So you move 2-6 in there. Denver at 5 is kind of crazy. This is a Denver team we bashed all off season,
We destroyed Denver. I might have to owe Bo Nix an apology.
and they are sitting at 5, and like they're scoring points offensively. We already know what the defense is. It's
The
kind of hard to
defense is
count Denver
phenomenal.
out. It is. I don't know. That defense is amazing. It's hard to count this Denver team out, but are they really that good? Are they really that? Do we see them get into a playoff spot when the Chargers too? I mean, I kind of tie these in two together, same division. Two teams we thought were going to be pretty bad. They're sitting at 5-7, or for 5th and 7th seeds. But is it more about how good Denver and the Chargers have been, or is it more about how bad Miami is and how bad Cincinnati's look?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in those two. I don't think they make it.
And I will say this too about Denver, and I don't want to discount any of their 5 wins, but they have yet to beat a team right now that is currently over 500. Their best record that they've beat this year is the Buccaneers, who are 4-4. The Jets 3-6. Raiders are 2-6. The Saints are 2-6, and the Panthers should be relegated. They are 1-7. So those are their 5 wins this year. So I would expect Denver to fall off a little bit. I would. They've still got to play Kansas City twice. They've got Baltimore coming up this week. So, and then they've got the Falcons, the Colts, they've got the Bengals, they've got the Chiefs, like I said, twice. So their schedule is going to get a lot more difficult. So I expect them to fall off. I agree with you there. I'm sorry if I missed this part. Did you mention which teams you have? Baltimore, Pittsburgh swapping, Denver dropping. Do you have Denver dropping out? I think
That's
Denver
what I'm
might
trying.
drop out.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I cannot. I
don't
just
want to.
can't see a world where Denver makes the playoffs. And
I
nothing.
can't
I
either.
just don't see it. I just don't. And it's not that I don't believe. It's just. I mean, it's part of it. I just don't. Bo Nix. I can't see Bo Nix on the playoff advertisements. I just don't see it.
It's tough, but Miami's looking so bad.
Yeah.
I'm
The
sorry to your
Colts is probably your
Jets.
best bet. Yeah, the Jets are still far off.
I
I totally
can't.
agree. I'm not
So
bought back in. Yep.
it's Cincinnati and the Colts. Like those are the only two I think may replace Denver and the
Yeah.
Chargers. But Cincinnati's defense is beyond trash, like you mentioned earlier. Colts, we'll see what the Colts, kind of do coming up. So I don't know. I don't know if I can stick with both Denver and the Chargers. I'm just not bought in. I really don't believe in either one of them. So we're going to put the Bengals and Colts in there instead of the other two.
If the Bengals just had an average defense, they would probably be 6-2 right now.
Yeah.
Because, or maybe 5-3. Okay, because they would have beat the Commanders. They lost 38-33. Then they lost 41-38 to the Ravens. They lost 26-25 to the Chiefs. So that wasn't like a huge defensive game.
That was a bad call. That should have went Cincinnati's way. So that was not pass interference.
Yeah. So they should be 6-2. Average defense and one call their way. Last week they just got beat. There's no the offense didn't play well. Defense played like trash. Last week they got beat, but they should be 6-2. I just still find it hard to believe that since he's going to turn it around. I believe. So you think the Chargers drop out as well?
Yeah. No, I don't believe in them.
Yeah. Yeah, Chargers are interesting. I think if they make a move for a receiver, to me, I think I'll get a better feel on the Chargers after Tuesday. If they make a move for a receiver, I will start to maybe believe, but I don't know. They're a very well coached team, but the receiving core to me still just it's got to scare the living crap out of you if you're a Chargers fan. I think the Colts get in. I do. I think Flacco is going to do kind of what he did last year in Cleveland, which is just stupid that we're still talking about Joe Flacco in 2024, but here we are. And I don't know. I think since he gets in, they're just too talented on offense not to. Like at some point, as bad as their defense is, at some point the offense, the defense is like they're going to eventually. I feel like step up enough in one of these games where they're going to start to go on a run. I mean, they've got Vegas tomorrow. There should be no excuse there. At Vegas at home, if you lose to the Raiders, I mean, God, that'd be terrible. I don't see the Denver Broncos making it. I agree. Now, do you have Texans winning the division? You don't think the Colts would jump them?
I'm gonna stick with Houston. They're getting Nico back. I'm gonna stick with Houston.
1 seed KC. You have to, right? I mean, until proven otherwise, who's going to jump them?
Yeah, this is one of the worst. What are they, 7-0? One of the worst. This is like 7-0.
This is like the 2020 Steelers.
Yeah,
the worst 11-0 team we've ever seen. This is the worst 7-0 team we've ever seen.
Very fluky, undefeated team, but
no doubt
it's Mahomes. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Chiefs to take the 1 seed.
Yeah, so I'm kind of right there with you. I think the Colts get in. I also think the Bengals get in. And that's as of right now. Now, here's a funny question. Out of the 2-win teams, if there was a team to go on the run, who would it be? So that's the Bengals, or the Browns rather, the Dolphins, the Raiders, and the Jaguars, and the Patriots. Out of those teams, who would go on a run?
There, you said the Bengals is one option, right?
Bengals are 3. I messed up. I meant Browns. I think the Browns. I think if there's a team to go on the run out of the 2-win teams, it would be Cleveland.
I would honestly say Miami.
Yeah, Miami's probably the smarter choice, but if you want to get a little risky, I'd go Cleveland, because you can't spell Winston without wins.
And you said earlier, this team is playing hard for Jameis. I mean, they shocked Baltimore. They weren't supposed to be in that game. So I mean, it's not crazy. It's honestly not crazy to see Cleveland going a little bit of a run, even though it seems like they're trying to sell a lot of what's going on. There's a few names floating around to trade away, but
yeah,
I don't know.
And I'll say this about the Browns: you can only help but think where this team would have been if they would have just benched Watson and not waited until this injury. They could be a 500 team right now if they bench Watson. Instead, they're 2-6. All right, NFC. Definitely a lot more competitive than the AFC. What were you looking here at in terms of the NFC? Lions, or sorry, what were you going to say?
Who are the 5, 6, and 7 seeds? Just
5, 6, and 7. Green Bay, Minnesota, Philly. I will just say this about the NFC. I would throw a lot of money on it right now. I think the Lions are the safest bet to just get the 1 seed. I think the Lions, to me, are the best team in the NFL right now.
I'm trying to just give me 1 second. 1 second. You're doing a little updating to this because I can't believe the Falcons are not in there. Okay. Green Bay,
Falcons,
Minnesota,
top Philly. 4: Lions, Commanders, Falcons, Cardinals. Where the heck did they? Who invited them? Hey, I said this. We both said this. I think we were both high on the Cardinals coming into this year. I had a feeling the Cardinals were going to be competitive. I didn't think they would be winning in the NFC West because I didn't think the Niners would be this bad. But they're competitive. I said it. The Cardinals are not going. They're going to be a team that's going to win, 6 to 8 games. They're going to be maybe more 7 to 8 games. They're going to be in the conversation. They're going to have a chance in December to go on a run. And here we are. They're the 4th spot right now, which I don't know if that'll last, but.
And they haven't even looked good. That is even though
that's the crazy part with the Cardinals. You look at their wins. You look at their recent wins. They've been by a combined. They've beat their opponents in their last 3 wins by a combined 4 points. They beat the Niners by 1, the Chargers by 2, and the Dolphins by 1. So easily right now, they could be 1-5 or 1-7.
But those are the ones you have to win. Those are the ones you're going to play in the playoff. Those are 100%. Possessions. So you got to give it to them.
And they've got 2 big wins already in the division with the Niners and the Rams. So they're 2-0 in the division, which is huge. So you got to give them credit for that. And they crushed the Rams. That was 41-10. That was, I think, week 2. That was the week Kyler went off for me in fantasy. He had like 38 points. So he's doing enough. Kyler's doing enough. So where do you see the NFC standing?
Well, I think I'm gonna stick with you. I agree. Detroit as number
Yeah,
one. I mean,
100%. I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. My Detroit Houston pick is still a possibility, but
Yeah,
Houston's look
that
like
was
they might,
same.
sell that. But
Houston's selling it. Yeah.
Detroit, I think they're gonna run away with the NFC here sometime soon. I know Washington is right behind them with one loss, but I think they're going to kind of start to separate a little bit. So I agree. Detroit keep the 1 seed. Washington Commanders are the 2 seed in 2024. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know. I think
I
I don't
hope
know.
Washington, like, I don't want to see Philly jump them, but I don't know. I just have a feeling Philly might jump them.
I do too, but even those would be. This is going to make sense. Hear me out. Washington as
Cowboys?
a 2 seed, absolutely not. Maybe the number 2 pick in the draft, but not the 2 seed in the NFC. Washington as a 2 seed makes sense. Like, okay, they are good. They have been pretty good. Philly as a 2 seed does not make sense. They have not looked good enough to be a 2
Yeah.
seed, but I think Philly would eventually jump them. But 2 seed is tough. What if I say
Washington,
Atlanta?
yeah, as your 2.
Atlanta gets the 2.
Washington to me is this year's version of Houston,
Yeah, you can't.
and they're just in a weaker division. Or not? No, they're not in a weaker division because Houston won the division. There's less good teams ahead of them. Like last year, the Texans had the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs all ahead of them. This year, the Commanders, they might only have. I mean, they could be a 4 seed, but I don't think anybody from the NFC West will jump Washington, so they'll probably be a 3 seed at worst if they do win the division. Whoever wins the NFC East, I think is going to be a 3 seed at worst, because I think the NFC West winner could easily be a 9-win team.
This is tough. All right, here we go. Detroit is 1. Atlanta is 2. Philly at 3. The Rams at 4.
I like that.
Washington at 5. Green Bay at 6. No. We're going. No, yeah. Washington 5. Green Bay at 6. Ooh, give me Tampa at 7.
So the Bears miss.
The Bears miss out.
Is Tyreek Stevenson still going to be taunting?
That's why they're going to miss out. It's probably going to come down to the last game of the season where, I don't know, maybe he drops the ball at the goal line off of a game-winning pick 6.
That was bad luck. I would cut him. I'd cut the guy.
I agree.
I could not believe in that.
I agree.
I'm right there with you. I think the Rams end up winning the NFC West. I do. I'm kind of on the Rams train right now. I want to try and find. I want to find a way. Like I've been high on the Cardinals since the season started. Like I want to find a way to see them get in. Try and find a way to fit them in, but I don't know. I think there's only gonna be one team from the NFC West. Maybe it's San Fran. Maybe San Fran sneaks into a wild card. I think it's probably hard to believe. For some, it's probably still hard to see them sitting home in the playoffs this year. I don't think Chicago's going to make it. I don't think Seattle's going to make it. I don't know. If
San Fran played Dallas every week, yeah, they would get in. But unfortunately, they don't. So I just don't. I think they miss out. It's kind of crazy, but I think they miss out.
Wait, San Fran, yeah.
Yeah.
Minnesota, I think, gets in.
Yeah.
Minnesota gets in. I think they get in. Big game this week for the Lions and the Packers for sure. I mean, I just think the Lions are going to win that division. I think if you don't get the injuries to Godwin, the Bucks probably win the NFC South.
But I got them at 7. I mean, I know without Godwin and Evans for now, Evans should be coming back. Baker doesn't look like he's lost it. Like he still looks good. and the offense is actually going more run heavy, and it's working out for them. I think they get in.
Yeah.
I trust them more than Seattle, Chicago, and San Fran. Baker is just he's on. I don't know. He's on like another level.
Yeah.
With the last 2 years.
And what makes it tough too for these other divisions, like right now, you just have an NFC North takeover. I mean, the Lions,
Yeah.
Packers, and Vikings are all in the top 6. So, and that division's still close right now. And heck, I mean, mathematically, the Bears aren't even out of it yet. They could like they're right now not even out of it. So that's what's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the Tampa Bay. I would like to see the Bucks make it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I've been on the Bucks train, but the last 2 weeks are definitely concerning, and with the injuries piling up, I know you get. I don't think Mike Evans is back. Is he back this week?
I think after week
After this,
11.
yeah. So he's not. Yeah. So that'll be tough. Now I have a question. Dallas
I knew it. I knew it was
or
Dallas related.
or let me think. Dallas or who has a better chance? Dallas or Seattle?
I'm gonna go with Seattle. I'm gonna go Seattle.
I know it's a different conference. Oh, sorry, you can keep going.
Just I said it a little bit off air where I'm just you can't trust anybody on the team right now. I don't know what Dak is seeing on the field sometimes, and I'm not even trying to say that. I'm not the bash the quarterback through everything tight. Like
Yeah.
obviously, so much more goes into it, but sometimes I don't know what he's looking at. Play calling is still very suspect and it's very questionable. Still nobody outside of CeeDee Lamb. We still got a bunch of injuries. I mean, with Seattle's sake, they run the ball well, they throw the ball well. They're just missing DK, and when DK gets back, we know how that offense gets rolling. I think, I think Seattle would probably have the better chance at it. Even and the division is, you can arguably probably say weaker, maybe, but Philly is not the best looking, but Philly's Philly. Washington surprising us. I think Seattle has a better chance with the Rams, Niners, and Cardinals, to get in at like a 7 spot than we do jumping Philly or jumping Washington.
Yeah. I guess I could see it. What about all right, here's a question. The 2 win teams, who has the better chance? The Saints or the Giants going on a run? Miracle run.
Brother. It's going to be Daniel Jones and the Giants. The
Daniel
Saints have
Jones.
not won a game after the Super Bowl in Dallas, and I just can't trust them. What we thought, the first 2 weeks were just absolutely insane for the Saints. And I know they have injuries, but what we thought the Saints were going to look throughout the course of the year is how they've looked the last 4 weeks. So give me the Giants to most likely to make that run.
Drew Lock makes it for them. Bench dumpster Dan, bring in Drew Lock.
He had some fire coming out of him on was that Monday night after the ridiculous 2-point conversion that didn't work out. Never seen him that animated, but seems like he wants to win.
Yeah. He wants to save his job. That's what he's trying to do. It's not working, but all right, let's get into our underdog picks to close things out here. Last week both went 1 and 2, wasn't it? Yes. Right? Another 1 and 2 week for both of us.
Wait, what was last week? I believe, yeah, 1 and 2. Thank you, Tyree. I'm sorry. Before we even say this, when Washington before the Hail Mary, I marked that game down as a win. I marked it down as a win. I said 2-1.
That would have been the difference.
I
because we both had Cardinals, Cowboys, didn't work out. The biggest one was Bucks, Bears, and no, that would be painful. So you should have went 2-1. Instead, you go 1 and 2. So that is that your third You're like me in the beginning of the season. It's just 1-2 after 1-2.
Yeah,
I'm still going 1-2. We've only had 1 3-0 week. No, you've had 2 3-0 weeks. Week 2 and week 4.
and since then I have been Lane Kiffin, where everything starts out great. We'll say Lincoln Riley. Everything starts out
Yeah.
great, and then it just starts to crumble.
Or Greg
Starts to
Schiano
crumble. That's even worse, and that's a better comparison. And it's only a matter of time before
4-0
I'm 0-3 after this
beat
week.
Washington. Yeah. So season standings 24 picks through 8 weeks. 8 weeks, 3 picks a week, 24. Boom. That's how math works right there. 11 I'm 11-13. You are 14-10. So I could use a 3-0 week and I can use an 0-3 week from you because we'd be tied. I need to start making up some ground. It's November. I'm right now kind of just I made up some ground, but I'm kind of just like here right now.
We're
I'm
stagnant.
like
We're
3
both just
games out.
stagnant.
Yeah. I'm treading water right now. Like I'm saving up for like a December push. So we'll see what happens. But 11-13, you're 14-10. Um, I guess who do you want to start?
I'll start it off this
All
week.
right.
Can't believe I'm saying this, but first pick. Whew, I might regret this.
Cowboys.
First pick, I'm going Jags 7.5.
Oh,
I last week almost picked them last week. I don't know if you remember that, but I debated it, picking them last week, and I believe they covered. I think they're starting to figure some things out, and I just don't trust Philly. Wait, this is gonna be a bad pick because Jacksonville's defense is garbage. I'm just gonna rock it. I'm just gonna stick with it. Give me Jags plus 7.5. Pick 2. We're gonna go with my 46-year-old quarterback. Give me Flacco and the Colts plus 5.5. Think they might even win outright this week. And pick number 3. This might be a bad one. This might be a bad one. Jordan Love is apparently playing with a growing injury. I just don't know
ooh.
how healthy he's going to be, but something's telling me Packers plus 2.5. Tough NFC North game, and I believe they're at home in Lambeau. Give me Packers plus 2.5.
All right. I actually don't mind that pick at all. I like that risk. Taking some risks. So Jaguars plus 7.5, Colts plus 5.5, Packers plus 2.5. All right. Here I go. Starting it off, they're going to win outright. I'm going to go with Jameis Winston. Give me the Browns plus 1. I think they beat the Chargers. I think they ride the high from last week. They are back home for the 3rd week in a row. Winston, they're going to run the table. They're going to win 11 games. I was lying when I said the Browns weren't going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. I'm lying. Browns plus 1 over the Chargers and their mid receiving core. Second pick of the week. This I might regret. I'm going to go Broncos plus 9.5. This is strictly, they're going to cover the spread. I could see this pick going one of two ways. They either cover or they're going to get blown out. There's not going to be an in between because to me, the Ravens coming off a loss, this could be a game where they're ticked off, come out with a lot of energy and blow them out. But the Ravens or the Broncos defense has been very good this year. A ton of credit to Vance Joseph for turning that around. So I'm going to go with the Broncos plus 9.5 here. And my final pick, I was deciding between 2 games. Tampa and the Patriots game. But I'm going to go Patriots plus 3. I'm going to go Patriots plus 3. They beat the Jets last week. They played the crappy Tennessee Titans. Drake may clear concussion protocol. He will play in this game. I will take the Patriots over the Tennessee Titans 3-0. So give me the Patriots plus 3. So Broncos plus 9.5, Patriots plus 3, Browns plus 1. There's some risk there. There's definitely some risks. I like the Browns bet. I think that's safe. Broncos and Patriots could get ugly fast, but we're going for a 3-0 week. So those are the picks.
I'm surprised no Cowboys from you this week. Even I almost took them. I almost took Dallas plus 3.5, I think it is. But I'm smarter than that.
I
So I
gotta
chose
stop
not
going against
to.
the Falcons. I think I've picked against the Falcons like 3 times this year, and none of it's never worked. So I gotta stop doing that.
I think
And
you
I only
picked it
guarantee Cowboys
last week.
victories on prime time.
I honestly, with football sheet with my dad, I picked them to win outright. I don't know what the case was, but I actually picked the Cowboys to win this week.
Ooh.
If not, brown paper bag time.
I will say this, an interesting game is the Raiders. They cover spreads. The Raiders just like they love to cover spreads. So if there would be a game where like the Bengals in garbage time just start letting up a ton of points, that could be a game where they cover. I think is it 7.5?
And I think the Bengals are maybe one
Yeah, 7.
in. I don't think the Bengals have covered the spread. I know twice this year I've picked them to cover the spread and they completely just fumbled it. I don't think they're too well against the spread. That's honestly not crazy. The Raiders.
Yeah. Not going to do it, and the Bengals have yet to win at home this year,
That is true.
which is kind of crazy to think. It started with Jacoby Brissett, and now it's going to continue with Gardner Minshew, right?
Yeah.
Or no, it's O'Connell.
No, O'Connell. Yep, it's
Yeah, Aiden
O'Connell.
O'Connell. So those are the picks. Maybe both of us have a 3-0 week because this is going to be a big week. This is going to be a huge week for the standings because both of us pick 3 different games. So there could be a lot of ground being made, or both of us could just go 0-3 and there is no ground that's made up.
If I somehow go 0-3 and you go 3-0 and we are both sitting at
We will be both
14
14
and 13,
Yep.
they're probably going to buy out the rest of my contract extension, and I'm never going to be able to do this again because I just went from it was like 8 and
Yeah, it'd be a pretty
go
large
back.
choke if I come back this season. I was early in the season, you were just dominating me every week. I mean, I think there was a point where you were like
9-3.
Yeah, 9-3, and I was like 3-9 or something. Like I was the opposite, and now I've come struck within 3 games.
I was 9-3, and you were at 4-8. And
Yeah, that's
ever
bad.
since then,
And now 11-13. So do the math. 9-3 since you've been 4-5-7, and after my 4-8 start, I have been 7-5. So we've been the opposite. I've been 7-5. You've been 5-7, right? Yeah.
It's honestly thanks to Tyree Stevenson. Like,
yeah.
That was such a great week. And I mean, some of my spreads have been outright. And I said, obviously, the Bears have to win outright for +1. But I marked it as a win. I said, I finally probably gave myself a little bit more ground. We're going to be sitting at 15-9. Like, this is great. Still in single-digit losses. Yeah. And he went and did that. So, honestly, it shouldn't even be me. It's him.
Week 5. So week 5, yeah, when the turnaround started for me. Yeah, I have gone 2-1 3 of the last 4 weeks. Last week, 1-2.
Oh man, am I Doc Rivers?
That's wild.
We will see this week. That's it. I'm just hoping for a 3-0 week.
Yes, I'm right there with you. All right, so that'll do it. We will talk to you guys next week. Enjoy your football Sunday tomorrow, and talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.